Hello, newsies! It is I, Becca Laurie Hector, your host of Neurodiversity Newsstand. And here I am on Catterday. Yes, it is indeed Saturday, or to me, Catterday. I am really sorry, you guys. I just didn't have the spoons to film this yesterday. I tried multiple times actually to sit down and film, but I kept getting interrupted by life stuff, like adulting stuff. And so I did a lot of kind of running around yesterday. And as many of you know, when you do adulting out in the real world, it is exhausting for those of us on the spectrum. So by the time I had done all the things that I kind of had to do and that were time sensitive and had to be done, I was spoonless. Yeah, I was really spoonless last night, and I was struggling with the English. I'm still kind of struggling this morning, so we'll see how that goes and pans out for us at Neurodiversity Newsstand. But last night I was like a mess. I had the dropsies. I couldn't find my words. I was struggling to do things. I lost my interoception. I stopped recognizing hunger and things like that. I mean, it was just a brutal adulting day that ended in I can't do anything else today. So they'll just have to forgive me because I'm leading by example. I did self-care instead of doing this last night because I figured you guys would bear with me and the news could wait just a little bit longer to come out to you. So today it's a Saturday edition of Neurodiversity Newsstand, and in honor of Catterday, I have trapped a few of my cats in here with me in hopes that maybe, just maybe, you guys might get a visual or somebody might jump into my lap or something for Catterday to make it a little special. But otherwise, let's get to the news because let me think. Let me see if I have any fun things that I could talk about before kind of getting into the news. What did I do this week? I just was like a lot of kind of last minute running around. I have a couple of deadlines coming up this next few weeks, so I tried to do a lot of my personal crap this week so that I can be really focused on the report that I have to do next week and then getting my presentation ready for AANE because I'm so excited to see you guys in Boston fans, and those of you making it to Boston, I'm excited to meet you. If you follow my social media, you'll know that I have set a goal for myself for this year to meet and speak to as many of you as possible. So to those of you who are my Autistic fans and would like to come and see and meet me in real life, tell your organizations. Tell them you want to know more about self-defined living. Tell them you want me to talk about neurodiversity. I don't care because I want to talk to you guys about what you want to hear about, and I want to share self-defined living with you guys. I want to get it out to as many of you as possible. I know I've been talking about courses, and I was really hoping to have one ready for this in the next few weeks for after the speaking engagement, but I had some really good ideas and some other ways I want to layer it in. And so rather than doing something really short and fast and getting it out to you guys on time, whatever on time is, I figured I'd rather really get it all together. So what I'm thinking about doing is actually putting a couple of courses together and some workbooks. I'm hoping to get a workbook done. That was my last minute idea, and I was like, oh, if I really want to do this and have it come out with the course, there's not a chance it's happening by the 15th. So I just let that date go because I'd rather give you a more complete course or what I envision to be a more complete course in self-defined living kind of, and how you can live a life that you don't need a vacation from either. And so that I'll be working on, and it will be coming out. I say follow my social media because when I'm ready and when it's out, I will just blast it all over the place, and I'll for sure talk about it on here, definitely. So you guys, if this is where you watch me, you'll find out it's here. So that's what I've been working on. I've been kind of playing with those ideas. And if, kind of you've been following me for a while, at least on my YouTube, you guys will know that as the year kind of closes up, so every year I pick an F word, so a word that begins with F, as kind of my theme for the year. This year's theme was flourish, and let me tell you, getting some roots down, not so easy these days. Getting yourself organized, settled, and really feeling like you can flourish it's been a challenge this year. It's been a really struggling one. But then I think about when I think about plants, and so when I think of the word flourish, I immediately think about greenery and nature and stuff. And so But when I think about it, we call a plant that's flourishing is a plant that we see that's above the ground and green and tall and has flowers and leaves and all of this stuff. But what we all have to remember is that really a flourishing plant comes down to its root base, right? I mean, most of the exciting plant stuff happens underground before we even see the leaves. And so that's the way I've been looking at Flourish this year, is that I really need to set down a really good foundation, my roots, find my comfort zone in my new surroundings, because it'll be a year in January since we've moved here, and kind of get myself into a new routine in the new house and the new location. And it's been a lot of setting down roots, right? I literally, like a plant, got transplanted to a different pot. And, it was a little bit shocking. And I had to use that word flourish to mean, yeah, let's really get our roots grown in, strong, nutrient rich, and then we'll start showing some leaves. So I think this year is going to be the year of leaves. You know what I mean? I haven't come up with my F word yet. I will definitely share it when I do. I'll probably talk a little bit more about the F word, because that's sort of one of the tools that I use in self-defined living. So I will come back to you with my new word. But my word for this year was flourish, and I had to really think about what that meant. I mean, I'm not... I think what I thought of the word flourish is not actually what the word flourish means, which was my takeaway from this year. But that's sort of what I've been doing this week, was sort of getting all of my ducks in a row so I can disappear into my work for the next couple of weeks and not have to worry too much. So there was like bank stuff and supermarket and I don't know, just everything you can think of, it felt like, this week that I had to run around and do, and especially yesterday. So thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for, I hope, understanding my spoonlessness, and watching me on a Saturday instead of on Friday. And I guess with that, I'm a little exhausted, a little low energy, so let's talk about the news. Maybe it'll get me excited. Let's see. And this week in news, I getting out the handy dandy yellow pad. It was an interesting week in the news. Tough all around for advocates on the social media end. Going to share that with you guys. If you are not an advocate, but you follow us advocates, or if you're not doing advocacy as your full-time job, please be nice to us. Okay, we're all out there sharing our energy and our spoons to push our community forward, to get the information out to you guys that you need, to provide resources, and to put a face on autism. So, it's not just that 2-year-old little boy anymore. And so it's really painful and hurtful and sad, actually, when us advocates get attacked for our work, for sharing either our opinions or our personal experiences, or perhaps even just making a joke. Sometimes we throw jokes out there and it's like, oh, you can't have a sense of humor either. So to my fellow advocates, you know who you are. You know I'm talking right at you, because we share groups, we talk. We are a nice, strong little tribe within the bigger tribe. And so remember that it's really easy to sit on the other side of a computer and make life uncomfortable and painful for somebody else. But that's not exactly the bravest way to be. I think it's really actually the antithesis of the way that I want to live my life. This picking on, bullying, especially within our community. Like, why? You guys all know each other. We all know how hard life has been. We all know how hard life is. Why would we make it worse for each other? So in any case, if you are a follower and a fan of advocates and you don't do advocacy full time, but you follow our pages, please be nice to us. We are giving all of our energy to our community. We are sharing our personal lives, our personal everything with you guys. And so we do it because we feel a camaraderie, and we feel a sense of community. And when you guys turn on us in that really attacking, nasty troll way, and you try to bring your friends with you, and it becomes a whole internet thing, it becomes hard to advocate. It becomes painful almost to advocate, because why should we advocate for a community that feels like they can attack itself? And so it's hard. It really demeans us, and it really is disrespectful, and it's unkind. And so I'm seeing advocates talk about leaving certain areas and not wanting to do social media, and a bunch of us talking about wanting a break because it's just been brutal on a personal level. to be out there as an advocate. So if you see that going on out there, you guys, come to the defense of an advocate. They're not always right. I'm not always right. Don't even want to always be right. We're not even trying to be right. We're just out there being us, and we'd really appreciate it if you kind of defended us against the trolls and sort of pronounced your opinions or disposed your opinions in a kind and respectful way, so that we can keep doing our job, because this is what I do for a living. I have dedicated myself to us, and so when my own community turns on me or gets nasty to other advocates, I get really disenchanted with our community. So that's it. I guess I'll leave you with that, you guys. It's been that kind of week of danger out there. It feels like it's been rough to kind of just leave an honest comment anywhere. So hopefully you guys will leave some nice comments, because, oh, by the way, giant thank you, huge thank you to my new subscribers. I got a bunch this week. Thanks for sharing me, Neurodiverse Woman. I really appreciate it. I love sharing your stuff, and I was glad to be shared by you. I got some new subscribers, some new watchers, and guess what, you guys? I got 9 thumbs up this week. A whole 9. That's the most I've ever gotten. So I'm excited about my 9 thumbs up, and I'm excited about my new subscribers, and I hope you guys are getting what you need and want out of Neurodiversity Newsstand and my channel in general. So yeah, that's been fun. So thank you guys. Big giant thank you to my long-standing supporters and to my newbies. I enjoy having you around. I am now going to really, for real, move on to the news now, and try and get that in there for you guys. So here we go. I just want to make sure that I start with the right article here, because this is last week, this week. Okay, here we go. So this week it was a lot. Again, I'm enjoying it, but I don't know if you guys are. So share back with me if you're not, or you are, or what you think. But I've noticed in the last few weeks we have really gotten a nice amount of articles and blogs written by autistics, and not that much like news. And when I say news, I mean like science and research news, or something, some kind of bigger news that comes out in more mainstream media, I guess is what I want to say. But I was excited to see our folks in mainstream media this week, and to see articles by our peeps, along with some other interesting pieces. So let's talk about it. The first one I want to talk about was a piece by Haley Moss. Haley is a fellow advocate, and she did a great piece in Fast Company, and the title of it was "Too Often Neurodiverse Hiring Efforts Overlook Female Job Seekers." And I think that was a great piece. First of all, Haley, fantastic piece. Loved the way it was written. Loved what you had to say in it. Some really important quotes from her in there. So if you have a chance and you have not read it yet, go back and read it. And what it talks about is how really when we see companies put together a hiring effort for neurodiverse folks, we not only see that the jobs themselves are limited. There's a lot of tech jobs and computer jobs and what we're kind of pigeonholed as being good at. And then on top of it, just as the world is, women in general struggle for employment and struggle for equal footing in a job setting, and we don't get that. And so it's twice as bad for females on the spectrum, and so at least neurodiverse females rather. And so Haley talks about that, and she talks a lot in there about the percentages of what our hiring efforts are doing and stuff. So what we see is a 34% employment rate for autistic women versus the 85% employment rate of non-neurodiverse women. And so that is scary, right? That means that most of the other autistic women that I am speaking to on a regular basis are unemployed, as am I. This is what I do for work. Getting paid for it is a pain in the butt. I don't want to ask my other fellow autistics for money, because I don't think that's fair. They're suffering just like I am to get by financially. Many of us are living on disability from our governments, and support from our governments. And so employers, what are you doing? You're missing out on us, and we are fantastic. You guys are really missing out on some amazing, amazing women. If you'd like any advice about that, contact Haley Moss. It sounds like she'd be ready to come over and tell you how to run your company. I'd be ready to come and tell you how to run your company and get new female neurodiverse employees in. And it's going to start with a lot of accommodation and communication. But it was a great piece by Haley Moss in Fast Company, so please take some time and have a read. I saw it shared a bunch, Haley. I loved it. Totally on board with this one. Loved it. HuffPost. Okay, the Huffington Post this week might have had the biggest duh article of all time in it this week, but we all shared it, laughed at it, talked about it because it's been a giant myth in our community for a really long time, right? So here is the grandiose title of this piece in the Huffington Post, which I say, duh. It was titled, "We May Have Been Wrong About Autism and Empathy." You think? You think? That's what I said when I posted it. I was, I guess, glad to see it in black and white, but I felt like, man, are you guys just getting it? I feel like we talked about that. We were talking about it as a community for a really long time ago. But yay, it is in fact a myth that autistics don't have empathy. We have, in fact, a lot of empathy. And oftentimes, because we are so sensitive to a lot of things, we are even more empathetic than most folks, which is really interesting. So here we are, a group of people assuming that we don't have any empathy, and we actually have more empathy than most folks. And so that's been really interesting to see this come out. But what I thought was the most interesting is that there was not even an actual admittance of being wrong. There was nobody said, no, we were wrong. The title is, "We May Have Been Wrong." No, you're wrong. You were wrong. You are wrong. We do have empathy. There's no maybes, buts about it. But I guess that was a safe title to choose for whatever reason. Out it came. We all shared it. We talked about it because, my goodness, how can we still be seen as unempathetic creatures? And I think we are seen that way because we all struggle so much with facial expression, which is what non-autistics like to use as a way to judge, and some other things. Our blunt language doesn't help us out very much. But still, we have a ton of empathy. In fact, I empathize so much with other people that on days where I'm struggling, it's hard to be around other people because I'm struggling with my own stuff, and I have alexithymia on top of it. So it's uncomfortable, in fact, how empathetic I can be sometimes. But there it was, out in black and white. We all went, duh. But there it was. So for people new to our community, they are finding out that we do have empathy. Hooray. Win for us, I guess. Next one up was a piece in Psychology Today by John Elder Robison, who is a long-standing advocate in our community, does amazing stuff with INSAR and some other organizations, and he writes regularly for Psychology Today, and he writes really dense, thought-provoking pieces. So if you're someone who's like, I just like light stuff, this isn't going to be the piece for you. But the title of the piece was, "Is Autism Becoming Neurodiversity?" And I thought it was really interesting. Like, what did he mean by that? And so when you kind of read the article, you get to find out a little bit more, which is that he really believes that folks that are hanging on to the medical model of everything, those are sort of the folks that are hanging on to the word autism and autism alone, and that those of us who are within the neurodiversity movement really see it as the social model rather than the medical model of autism. So if you're unfamiliar with that, you can look up some of those topics. Wow, really uneven. Sorry, guys. And you can look up some of those terms and you can see what we mean by the medical model versus the social model of autism. And then have a look at John's piece, because he really does talk about things in a really interesting way to get your brain kind of moving on them. It's just, you'll need some quiet because he writes in a very dense, informational way. And I really, I love his pieces a lot. So thank you, John, because I thought this was a fantastic piece, another fantastic piece by you in Psychology Today. Next up, Thinking Person's Guide to Autism, another one of my favorite sources for news and information, and blogs and pieces by you guys. And this one is by another advocate, Reed Kaplan. Reed is a fantastic advocate, and what he decided to write about was, what is sensory processing like for autistic people? This is something that I also struggle with. I've shown, there are videos out there on YouTube that you can use to show people. I've done different exercises with folks to kind of give them a window into the sensory processing issues that we have. But anytime that we can kind of open the eyes of folks to understand kind of how different our sensory processing can be, and how different from each other it can even be, it's important that we continue to talk about it, because even for parents out there who are just getting a brand new diagnosis for their 2-year-old, they have to start to understand all of these things. And so as adults, because we can articulate this stuff, we're old enough, our brains are old enough that we can articulate our experiences. It's important that we continue to share so that we're giving information to the parents of young kids out there who can't yet articulate their sensory differences. So I thought it was another really good piece. I really enjoyed what Reed had to say, but it was one of those pieces where it's worth sharing. It's worth sharing with the other people in your life, giving them a window into what it's like to have sensory processing issues. And I like that piece. So again, that was Thinking Person's Guide to Autism and Reed Kaplan. Next up, this piece was a really good piece. I shared it. I saw it shared a few times. I wish it got shared a little bit more, because it's on point with a topic that I think is coming up to be important in our community, which should have been important for quite some time, which is aging on the spectrum. So this piece was in the Aspergian. It was a piece by Gadsby, and it was called Take the Long Way Home, Late Diagnosis and Becoming an Autistic Elder. And I loved that, because I'm becoming an autistic elder. I'm 43 now, but I am well on my way to becoming an autistic elder. And in most cases, I feel like an autistic elder. I feel like I've lived a long, painful life at times. But I also, in a very big sense, feel like I am maybe the younger of the autistic elders, but of a different kind of wave of advocacy that kind of began, when I began, which is about 8 years ago. And kind of now advocacy is shifting a little bit. But I really liked what she talked about in here. It was really interesting to think about the other people like me out there who are thinking, wow, if I don't start sharing my different experience of not knowing that I had autism, that's going to disappear, because these days our diagnosis is so much better. Hopefully we're working on getting it to be more affordable, would be nice. Covered by insurance even would be fantastic. But as we're getting diagnosed better and earlier and younger, the experience of living without that diagnosis is disappearing. So it's important that we hang on to the information from the autistic elders, myself included. In any case, so that was another great piece out there from the Aspergian. Again, Gadsby, great piece talking about aging on the spectrum. Please have a look at it, just so that you have a sense of history, that there's a sense of where we all came from and what it was like for those of us before autism was really talked about. It's important. The next piece, this was another blog. Really liked this one too. It was called Slick as a Seal, I Rise, Making Autistic Empowerment Visible. Love this idea. Yes. How do we reduce the stigma? How do we get it to go away? Normalize it, normalize it, normalize it. We just have to be out there and in people's faces, not afraid to talk about it, not afraid to be it, not afraid of authenticity, because that's what's going to help, right? The more of us there are and the louder our voices get, I think the better off we'll be in time. But this piece was by Sonia Bo, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry, Sonia. I'm sorry if I mutilated your last name, but it was a fantastic piece, kind of about how to be seen, for our advocacy. Really good one. It gave me goosebumps. I suggest reading it. I am recommending it here on Neurodiversity Newsstand, and I have it out there, but it's been shared by a few others, so you may see it around. Take the time and have a read. It was a good one. Another good one this week came from Yen Perkis. Yen has talked openly about their mental health issues, their hospitalizations, and in this piece from a recent medical issue that Yen had. Yen writes about gender identity, autism, and psychiatry, and promoting respect. As someone who has, I don't know what the right term is, Yen. I don't want to say it wrong, but as someone who struggles with gender identity, who has come to terms with a new gender identity, Yen writes about how doctors and medical professionals can be really disrespectful of those choices, and really just honoring our choices. And so that's what that piece was about, Yen. It was a great one. Good topic. Glad you wrote it down, and really hoping that some folks will read it. Because it's happening. It's happening to all of us in different ways out there. And it's sad. It's really sad that that's still happening. All right. But whatever. So that's another good piece. Last up. So those are my pieces for this week. It was, again, a lot of blogs from us. And man, does that make me happy. I would rather share our blogs with each other than silly news stories that the world makes up about us, for sure. Absolutely. This week, I want to remind everybody about a book that's out. It's called, oh God, where did I put it? Autistically Thriving by Judy Endow. I've talked about it in previous episodes. I'm going to talk about it one more time today. Giving a shout out for Judy Endow's book, Autistically Thriving. It looks really good. I haven't gotten a hold of it yet myself, but I am recommending. It is out now for your purchase. In addition to that, I want to share, last week I talked about Inner Riches, and Inner Riches is a book by Michelle Dorothy Rixman. We talked about it last week. It's about her loss of her mother and grieving on the spectrum and what that's like. My copy arrived, yay! Michelle, I cannot wait to read it. I'm so excited. I can't wait for like December when I have a little bit of a slowdown and I can really give it my time. Was so excited to order it. So it came. So shout out to Michelle also and Inner Riches, you guys. Both books available on Amazon. So go on out there and get them. Last thing I want to talk about today is a little tiny event. Didn't have a lot of events to share with you guys this week, but Hannah Gadsby, the comedian, our favorite comedian on the spectrum, is actually going to be performing in Toronto for the first time in February, you guys. So if you are a Toronto or Canadian native and you want to catch Hannah Gadsby, she will be performing Douglas in Toronto on February 28th and 29th, and tickets are available now. They went on sale yesterday, so you can hop on over and get a hold of them if you want to see her live. So that is the only event I have to share with you guys this week. Those are all of the amazing blogs that we read through this week, the ones that were outstanding, that we talked about the most. If you are new to my channel and you enjoyed watching it, please take a moment to subscribe below. If you liked what I talked about, please give me a big old thumbs up so that I know that you're watching and I know you like what you're seeing. If you didn't like what I did today, or if you think I missed something that I shouldn't have, please go ahead and give me a giant thumbs down and let me know in the comments what it is that I missed. If you want to get in touch with me, or if you have articles or events coming up, books that you want me to share on Neurodiversity Newsstand, you can reach me at info@beccalaurie.com. And that's it for me this week, you guys. I am Becca Laurie Hector, your host of Neurodiversity Newsstand, your neurdiverse news in a nutshell. I'm out. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my weekend. We're going to have beautiful weather here in Colorado, and I can't wait to get out there. We've got some dogs here this weekend. So I hope you guys do something fun and amazing and full of self-care this weekend. Let me know what you did in the comments. I absolutely love hearing from you guys. I answer every single comment. I love seeing your thumbs up. I love seeing your subscribes. I love sharing the neurodiversity news with you. So have an amazing weekend, guys, and I will see you next Friday.